Good morning, Bucknutters. Welcome to the Bucknuts Morning 5 here on Wednesday, June 8th, 2016. I am Dave Biddle. Very happy to be joined by Bucknuts contributor and all-around great guy, Jonah Booker. J-Book is a former college football player at Ohio University, and he has left us in the Buckeye State. He now lives in the Valley of the Sun in the Phoenix area. J-Book, how you doing this morning, my man?
I'm doing well. Just trying to stay cool. It's our bad weather season, 118 degrees, so there's not really any escaping this type of heat.
You need a lot of air conditioning. It's a dry heat, I know they'll say, but 118, I don't want to hear about dry heat. That's just ridiculous. And
it's still hot as hell.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, hot as hell, no matter how you cut it. Speaking of guys from close to your neck of the woods now, Tyjon Lindsey, let's start with him. Obviously played at Bishop Gorman in Las Vegas last year. Now he's transferred back to his original high school in California. I think it's just, I don't want to say it's a foregone conclusion at this point, but man, it sounds really good for Ohio State to land 5-star wide receiver Tyjon Lindsey. Your thoughts?
This kid, he's a difference maker. The wiggle in the hips is tremendous. I'll put on the message board. He reminds me of a lot of Christian Kurt at Notre Dame, or at Texas A&M that Ohio State recruited out here in Scottsdale. And the way things are trending, he set an announcement date. A lot of people believe that he's been telling all the coaches and the recruits the right things that they want to hear. So if the Buckeyes can land him with the trio from that area, that would be a huge feather in the cap for Urban Meyer. And talk about just loading up with 5-star on that offensive side of the football, potentially what's coming down the road.
Yeah, we know Haskell Garrett's already committed to the Buckeyes, and even though he committed sight unseen, he then took a full week visit to Ohio State, and he's completely shut off his commitment, his recruitment, and he looks like as solid as a commitment as you could possibly get. So they have Haskell Garrett in the class from Las Vegas Bishop Gorman, and we know Tate Martell is the number one dual threat quarterback in the country from Bishop Gorman, and we know that Tyjon Lindsey and Tate Martell are good friends. Tate Martell and Tyjon Lindsey's friendship, how much of an impact, you speaking as a former college football player yourself, does that really matter, or do you think that really it increases Ohio State's odds of landing both those kids?
I think it increases the odds. When you're going through the recruiting process and you're really good friends with another recruit, and those guys, they always talk about how they consider each other brothers from when Lindsey used to live with Martell. And if you can have a familiar face on campus with you when you're going away from home, that makes a huge difference. And the way things are looking with Martell, Ohio State made his Final Five. Many believe the guys are out in front leading this recruiting. He hasn't set an announcement date yet, but those two together, I definitely could see it happen. And one thing about Martell you really have to like is he's really showing well in Elite 11. His game is known for being a spread quarterback and playing outside the pocket, making things happen with his legs. And the Elite 11 competition, that's specifically designed for guys to stay within the pocket and make the accurate throws. And for him to be showing so well with his stature really leads you to believe, like, hey, this guy, he's a full package, even though he may not be the biggest quarterback. But I like what I'm hearing from him out of that Elite 11 competition there.
Yeah, no doubt about it. That's a fantastic point. So you think of Tate Martell, you think about like a kind of a Johnny Manziel type as far as a runner, maybe not to Johnny Manziel's caliber as a passer quite yet, as far as his Texas A&M days, not his Cleveland Browns days. But that's a great point. The Elite 11 doesn't care about how well you run the football. It's all about dropping back and throwing the ball, and he's doing a great job there. Let me ask you this. It seems from my perspective, J-Book, that Ohio State's coaching staff must be very confident that they're going to land Tate Martell. Otherwise, I think they would have pursued Kellen Mond a little harder, even though Kellen Mond at one point said that Urban Meyer told him that he was the number one guy on their board. From everything that we know, That's not the case. I'm not saying, that Kellen Mond's lying or anything. Maybe he misinterpreted what was said, but we're hearing that Tate Martell is the number one quarterback on the board. For Ohio State to basically, not tell Kellen Mond to look elsewhere, but they know they could have had Kellen Mond if they wanted him, in my opinion. So knowing that, does that make you believe that Tate Martell is, I don't want to say definitely going to be a Buckeye, but probably will be a Buckeye?
Well, their actions speak very loudly, and it's two things. Yes, I believe that they feel really confident that they're going to get him, and two, it tells me that they think this kid is the real deal. And you look at past history, for an example, the way they went after Deshaun Watson, who's probably going to be the number one pick in the NFL draft next year. But when they went all in with Deshaun Watson, everybody was wondering, like, hey, what are these guys doing? They're essentially saying, this is our guy. We know he's the real deal, and that's who we're going to ride with. Even though it's not entirely the same situation because they have Danny Clark in the fold, but for them, they're just basically saying it's either going to be Tate Martell or bust for the most part. Because as you mentioned, they pretty much slow play Mon with him. He's trying to make a early summer decision, and they want to see what happens with Martell. And another thing, another reason why I think they're really high on Martell is you look at the Bishop Gorman recruits that's coming out of there. If you can land Martell with Haskell Garrett, and then you have Lindsey in the fold potentially as well, who used to go there, now all of a sudden you have a strong pipeline coming up with that 2017 and 2018 class, because I believe there's a linebacker who's rated in the top 10 who also has Ohio State in his top 5 that's related to Haskell Garrett. So you're not only getting a good player in Martell, but you're also bringing in the intangibles of going to a school that's a potential pipeline out west.
I like the idea of Bishop Gorman becoming a pipeline for Ohio State, just in case 24/7 Sports wants to send us out to cover different schools that are a pipeline. Nothing against Cleveland Glenville. I love the city of Cleveland, but if I needed to visit somewhere, I think I'd pick Vegas over Cleveland. I love you, Cleveland, but I would pick Vegas over Cleveland if I had to go cover an event. I like the St. Thomas Aquinas pipeline, too. Fort Lauderdale, also a nice place to visit compared to Cleveland Glenville. All right, let's talk about Malcolm Pridgeon a little bit. A lot of people want to know, what is his role going to be? Urban Meyer would not recruit a JUCO to come in and sit at the bench. We all know that. However, Isaiah Prince is not going to give his job up without a fight, and he's very talented. A bunch of guys at right guard are not going to give their job up, Demetrius Knox, Michael Jordan. But that being said, just, break it down, J-Book. If you had to bet right now, what do you think Malcolm Pridgeon's role will be for the 2016 Buckeyes?
Well, coming in, he's automatically going to be behind the 8-ball. The guys have already been repping there in the spring. So just to start, I believe he'll be automatically in the 2 deep with his size, strength, experience as a JUCO kid. Now, will he start? That's going to be hard to tell. I can't see him beating out Prince, but Ohio State, they're huge on playing the 5 best linemen. And I believe that other guard spot is up for grabs. And if you'd have told me that Michael Jordan would potentially be the starter at one of the guard positions opposite of Billy Price coming into the true freshman, I'd have told you there's no way in hell that's going to happen. But right. Credit to this kid. He's absolutely worked his tail off. From all the sounds of it, he's dominating inside the box there. So I see that as a potential ongoing saga deep into fall camp. If Pridgeon comes in and he's just absolutely mauling kids, then I can absolutely see him playing a guard spot and then maybe down the road competing to see if he's able to kick out to a tackle position. But the nature of the beast is let's try to get the 5 best offensive linemen on the field at the same time.
You make a great point about Michael Jordan. I don't know if entering spring, what would have surprised me more if you would have told me Michael Jordan has a legitimate chance to start as a true freshman in 2016, or if you had told me Devon Hamilton will definitely have a spot on the 2 deep locked up at defensive tackle after spring. Because keep in mind, Devon Hamilton, not only was he not highly ranked, in fact, he was very lowly ranked coming out of high school in that 2015 class. We knew Mike Hill and Tracy Sprinkle were going to be the starters. We thought Donovan Munger was going to be back. His football career has unfortunately ended due to a medical ailment that includes blood clots. You had Robert Landers, Jayshon Cornell, Draymond Jones, and Landers, Cornell, and Jones are still in the mix. But Hamilton is, had locked down a spot on the 2 deep, which I never would have guessed, and I never would have guessed Michael Jordan would be in the running for a legit starting spot too. But so that's why spring ball is always a little more interesting than some people give it credit for. All right, last question before I let you go, Jay Book. I'm going to do a piece for the site later this week on the top offensive players on Ohio State's 2016 roster. Let's take J.T. Barrett and Pat Elflein off the table. I think we all agree those are the top 2 offensive players on Ohio State's team. Who is the next best offensive player for the 2016 Buckeyes?
That's a tough question because I start going through names in my head, and you're like, well, this guy really hasn't done anything. Well, this guy has potential, but he hasn't done anything. They're so young, but very talented. You talk about who would be the next best player. You're essentially just doing a projection on what you think based off opinion, not so much of what these guys have shown so far. But I would have to go with Noah Brown. The guy has game reps. Hopefully he's back up to full speed. He released a couple clips on his social media account showing him running some routes. He's looking like he's getting that explosion back. So after Barrett and Elflein, I would have to go with Noah Brown just for the simple fact that the guy has valuable game reps and he's in the mix to be the starter. So hopefully he can get back to that form that he had going into fall camp, because all indication was this guy was an absolute beast out there. So I'm looking forward to seeing his return, but that would be my choice.
Fantastic stuff out of Jonah Booker. As always, you can catch him on the Front Row message board. You can catch his column every week. It is Outside Columbus. Thank you very much, Jay Book, and thank you to the listeners out there for tuning into the show. I appreciate it. Hope everyone has a great day. Let's hear a little Buckeye swag, best damn band in the land.